Before I continue, I want you to do something for me. Go check your front door. I'm serious. Right now. Get up, walk to your front door, and make sure it's locked. Because when I tell you what happened after we got back from that forest, you're going to want to know every door in your home is closed. Every window, every lock. You're going to want to know that nothing got in while you weren't paying attention. My name is Ryan. In part 1, I told you about what happened to Marcus in the forest. How he disappeared at 2:53 in the morning without a sound. How we found his shoes, just his shoes, sitting perfectly upright in the leaves, 40 meters into the trees. How Marcus's phone showed a photo taken 2 minutes before he vanished. Something at the tree line, something tall, something looking directly at him. And I told you what Mia said when she called me the night we got back. Carlos didn't come home. Bare footprints outside her building, wrong stride. What I didn't tell you is what I heard outside my apartment that same night. At exactly 2:53 a.m., the same time Marcus disappeared. Let me take you back to Sunday evening, March 24th. Around 7 p.m., we pulled into Los Angeles like survivors crawling out of a wreck. Nobody spoke. Nobody played music. Tyler parked the SUV outside Jake's building, and we just sat there for a moment. 8 people staring at the city like we didn't recognize it anymore. Jake was the first to move. He got out, opened the back, started pulling out bags. His jaw was tight. His eyes were red but dry. Jake was the kind of person who processed grief by moving, by doing something. Standing still was not an option for him. Sarah touched his arm as he passed her. He stopped, looked at her, and for just a second his face broke completely open, raw and lost and terrified. And then he pulled it back together and kept moving. I watched that happen in about 3 seconds. It was one of the saddest things I have ever seen. We said goodbye in the parking lot. No hugs, no text me when you get home, just nods, just the quiet understanding that we all needed to be alone right now, and that words were too small for what had just happened. Mia was the last one I saw before I left. She was standing by Carlos's car, the car he had driven up in, that was now going to have to be picked up by someone, that was now just a car sitting in a parking lot without its owner, and she was staring at it. Mia, I said. She turned to look at me. Her eyes were completely empty, not sad, not scared, just emptied out, like something had reached in and taken whatever was living behind them. He's not missing, she said quietly. You know that, right? He's not just missing. I didn't know what to say. Whatever took Marcus, she said. It took Carlos, too. We don't know that, I said. Even though I did know that. Even though every single part of me knew exactly what she was saying was true. She nodded slowly, like she wasn't agreeing with me, like she was just done with the conversation. Go home, Ryan, she said. Lock your door. I drove home. I locked my door. My apartment is on the 3rd floor of a building in Silver Lake. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that's really just 1 wall, and a living room with a window that looks out over the street. I've lived there for 3 years. I know every sound that building makes. The pipes in the walls. The couple upstairs who argue every Thursday. The way the front door of the building sounds when it opens. A specific metallic groan, unmistakable. I know this place. I keep telling myself that. I know this place. I got home at 7:45 p.m., dropped my bag in the hallway, and stood in my kitchen for about 10 minutes, just staring at the wall. Then I called my mom. Didn't tell her what happened, just talked. About nothing. About her garden, and her neighbor's new dog, and whether I was eating enough vegetables. Normal things. Human things. I needed to hear a voice that had nothing to do with forests. After I hung up, I took the longest shower of my life. Stood under the hot water until it went cold, and then stood there in the cold water until I stopped feeling anything. Dried off, put on clean clothes, sat on my couch, turned on the TV, didn't watch it. At 11 p.m., Mia called. That's when she told me about Carlos, about walking to her car, turning around to wave goodbye, and he just wasn't there. The sidewalk was empty, and in the planter box dirt by the building entrance, the footprints. I stayed on the phone with her for 2 hours. By the time we hung up, it was 1 a.m. I turned off the TV. I checked the front door, locked. I checked the window, closed. I went to bed. I did not sleep. At 2:30 a.m., I heard the front door of the building open downstairs, that specific metallic groan. I lay in bed and listened. Footsteps in the stairwell, slow, coming up. 1st floor landing, 2nd floor landing, 3rd floor. They stopped in the hallway outside my apartment. I told myself it was a neighbor, Mrs. Delgado, coming home late. The guy from 3C who worked night shifts sometimes. Completely normal. And then I
heard breathing right outside my door. Not the sound of someone pausing in the hallway, catching their breath, searching their pockets for keys. Slow breathing, deliberate, like something standing perfectly still, facing my door, just breathing. I looked at my phone. 2:53 a.m. The exact time Marcus disappeared. I stopped moving, stopped breathing. Every muscle in my body locked up completely. The breathing outside my door continued.
In, out, and then, so slowly I almost missed it, I heard something press against my door. Not a knock, not a scratch. Weight, pressure, like something leaning its full body against the door. The wood creaked slightly under the pressure. I do not have words for what I felt in that moment. Fear isn't the right word. Fear is what you feel on a roller coaster or during a scary movie. What I felt was older than fear, more primitive, the kind of feeling that lives in the part of your brain that hasn't changed in 100,000 years, the part that knows, without thinking, without reasoning, something is hunting you. I grabbed my phone, opened it to call 911, and the breathing stopped. Just like that. Gone. No retreating footsteps, no sound of movement. 1 second it was there, the next second, nothing. I sat on the edge of my bed for 45 minutes holding my phone before I moved. When I finally opened my apartment door and looked into the hallway, empty. Fluorescent lights humming, worn carpet, nothing. But on the floor directly in front of my door, in the thin layer of dust that accumulates in old apartment hallways, 2 footprints, bare feet, facing my door. I took a photo, closed my door, pushed my couch in front of it. I did not sleep that night. Monday morning, I called Jake at 8 a.m. He answered on the first ring, which told me everything I needed to know about whether he had slept. It came to my building, I said. No preamble, no good morning. Silence on his end. Jake, yeah, he said. His voice was hollow. I know. You know? Sarah heard something outside our window last night, he said. 3rd floor, fire escape. Something on the fire escape at 3 a.m. Did you see it? She looked out the window. He paused for a long time. She won't tell me what she saw. She won't talk about it. She's been sitting at the kitchen table since 6 a.m. and she won't talk. We called the others. Tyler and Becca, nothing. They lived in Burbank, further from the forest. Maybe that mattered. Maybe it didn't. Danny and Priya. Danny had heard something on their roof. He'd gone up to check and found nothing except 3 pigeon carcasses arranged in a perfect triangle near the roof access door. Pigeon bones picked completely clean. He'd assumed it was cats. He wasn't assuming that anymore. And then we called Mia. She didn't answer. We called again. No answer. Jake drove to her apartment. She was home. She opened the door when he knocked, which meant she was physically okay. But she had pushed her bed against the wall, blocked every window with furniture, and was sitting in the center of the room with every light on. She had been awake for 36 hours. And on her phone, she showed Jake this, wouldn't show anyone else, just Jake. On her phone was a text message from Carlos's number, sent at 2:53 a.m. Carlos had been missing for 8 hours at that point. His phone was presumably wherever he was, wherever whatever took him had taken him. The text was 4 words: don't open the door. Let me be completely honest with you about something. At this point, Monday morning, less than 48 hours after Marcus disappeared, I was in a state of mind that I can only describe as fractured. Like my brain was a phone screen with a crack running through it, still functioning, still displaying information, but everything was slightly wrong, slightly off. Reality felt like a thing I was looking at through damaged glass. I had not slept in over 30 hours. 2 of my friends were gone. Something had been outside my door at 2:53 in the morning, and I was sitting in my apartment in Silver Lake, Los Angeles, in the middle of a city of 4 million people, feeling more completely alone and more completely unsafe than I had ever felt in my life. I want you to understand that feeling because it's important for what comes next. When you're that exhausted, that scared, that destabilized, your mind starts doing things. It starts filling in gaps, seeing patterns, making connections. Or some of those connections are real, and your exhausted, terrified mind is the only thing still sharp enough to see them.
I'm still not sure which one it was. On Monday afternoon, I did something. I sat down at my kitchen table with a notepad, actual paper, felt like I needed to write this with my hands, and I started mapping out everything I knew. Marcus disappeared. 2:53 a.m., Sunday, March 24th. Location, Angeles National Forest, campsite. Last seen, sitting by the fire, alone. What was found? His shoes, his phone, one photo. Carlos disappeared. Approximately 9 p.m., Sunday, March 24th. Location, outside Mia's apartment building, Silver Lake. Last seen, walking Mia to her car. What was found? Footprints, bare feet, wrong stride. The thing outside my door. 2:53 a.m., Monday, March 25th. Location, third floor hallway, my building, Silver Lake. What I found? 2 footprints, bare feet. The thing on Jake and Sarah's fire escape. Approximately 3 a.m., Monday. Location, third floor fire escape, Jake's building, Los Feliz. The text from Carlos's phone. 2:53 a.m., Monday. Content, don't open the door. I stared at this list for a long time, and then I noticed something. 2:53 a.m. The photo on Marcus's phone was time-stamped 2:51 a.m. He disappeared at 2:53 a.m. The thing outside my door arrived at 2:53 a.m. The text from Carlos's phone was sent at 2:53 a.m. Same time, every time. Why? I don't have a complete answer to that question. I've thought about it for months. I've read things, probably too many things. The kind of things you find at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep, and you've gone too far down a research hole. Some indigenous traditions in this region speak about certain entities that exist in cycles, that move in patterns, that are bound to specific moments in time the way a tide is bound to the moon.
I don't know if I believe that. But 2:53 a.m. kept coming back. It kept coming back. I called Tyler that afternoon and told him about the time pattern. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Ryan, Becca wants to know something. She wants to know if anyone else noticed something about Marcus before he disappeared." "What do you mean?" "In the days before the trip, did he seem different to you?" I thought about it. "No more than usual. He was always quiet." Becca said, and she feels weird saying this, Becca said that the day before we left, when we were all at Jake's place packing gear, Marcus kept looking out the window like he was watching for something. She said she asked him about it, and he said he'd been having weird dreams. Cold went through me slowly, from my chest outward. "What kind of dreams?" I asked. Tyler paused. "That's the thing. He wouldn't describe them. He just said they felt like memories, but of things that hadn't happened yet." I hung up with Tyler and sat very still in my apartment for a long time, because I remembered something I hadn't thought about until that moment. 3 weeks before the trip, Marcus and I had grabbed coffee, just the two of us, at this place on Sunset, and at one point, totally out of nowhere, he'd put down his cup and looked at me very seriously and said, "Ryan, if something ever happens to me, something weird, something that doesn't make sense, don't let them close the case, okay? Promise me." I had laughed. I thought he was being dramatic. "Marcus, what are you talking about?" He shook his head, picked his cup back up. "Forget it. Never mind. I forgot it. I am so sorry, Marcus. I forgot it." Monday night, I did not want to be alone. I called Jake and we agreed that the 8 of us, everyone who was left, would stay together. Jake's apartment was the biggest. Everyone came. By 9 p.m., we were all there. Mattresses pulled from bedrooms into the living room. Every light in the apartment on. Tyler had gone to a hardware store and bought a motion sensor for the front door and the windows. Becca had her boyfriend's dog, a big German shepherd named Duke, and brought him along. It almost felt safe. It almost felt like we had done something, taken control, beaten it. We ate together, ordered pizza because nobody could cook, watched a movie, something stupid and light, a comedy, something that had nothing to do with forests or darkness or missing people. By midnight, most people were drifting off. The exhaustion of 2 days of terror was heavier than the fear. People fell asleep where they sat, where they lay, in the middle of sentences. I stayed awake. I watched the clock. 2:30 a.m., everything quiet. Duke sleeping by the front door. Motion sensor light blinking green. All still. 2:45 a.m., still quiet. Priya murmuring in her sleep. Jake and Sarah tangled together on the couch. 2:50 a.m., 2:51 a.m. Duke woke up, not slowly, not the way dogs wake up from dreams, stretching and sighing. He came awake instantly, completely, head up, ears forward, body rigid. He was facing the front door. A sound built in his chest, not a bark, lower than that, older than that. A
sound dogs make when whatever they're looking at isn't something they have a word for. 2:52 a.m. Duke stood up, still facing the door, the sound in his chest getting louder. I got up from the floor slowly, moved toward him, put my hand on his back. His fur was standing straight up from his neck to his tail, every single hair. He was shaking. I have never seen a dog shake like that. 2:53 a.m. Duke lunged at the door, full weight, slamming into it, barking so hard and so loud that everyone in the room jolted awake, screaming. Jake was up in 1 second. What? What? Duke was throwing himself at the door over and over, barking, snarling, completely out of his mind. Tyler grabbed him, pulling him back. Duke, stop!
And then, from directly outside the front door, knocking. 3 knocks. Slow, deliberate, patient, like it had all the time in the world. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. 8 people in a living room at 2:53 in the morning, staring at a door. Jake took 1 step toward it. Sarah grabbed his arm. Don't! It could be a neighbor. Jake, don't! The knocking came again. 3 knocks. Same rhythm, same patience. And then a voice. A voice we all recognized. Marcus's voice. Hey guys, it's me. Can you let me in? It's cold out here. Nobody moved for a very long time. Sarah had her hand over her mouth. Priya was crying completely silently, tears running down her face, making no sound at all. Mia had her eyes closed and was shaking her head slowly, over and over, like she was trying to erase something. Marcus's voice again. Same tone, same warmth. The voice we had all known for years. Ryan? Jake, come on, man, let me in. I've been out here a long time. Jake was standing completely still, staring at the door. His face was doing that thing again, that breaking open thing, but different this time, because this wasn't grief. This was something worse than grief. This was hope. And hope, in that moment, was the most dangerous thing in the world. Jake, I said quietly, look at Duke. Duke was pressed against the far wall of the apartment, the biggest, bravest dog I had ever met. He was pressed against the wall as far from that door as he could get, ears flat, tail down, shaking. He would not look at the door. Jake looked at Duke for a long time. He did not open the door. The voice outside spoke one more time, and this time it wasn't quite right anymore. The warmth was still there, the familiarity, the rhythm of speech that sounded like Marcus, but underneath it, underneath the words, there was something else moving, like a frequency you feel in your chest rather than hear with your ears, like something wearing Marcus's voice the way you wear a coat. It said, I just want to come inside. Why won't you let me in? We sat in that apartment until sunrise. Nobody slept, nobody spoke. We listened to it try different voices. Carlos, then someone's mother, then a child, always at the door, always the same request. Let me in, let me in, let me in. At 5:47 a.m., when the first gray light started coming under the curtains, it stopped. And in the morning silence, in the first pale light of Tuesday, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered it. Static, long, and empty. And then from somewhere very far away, from somewhere that sounded like the bottom of the world, Marcus said, Ryan, it's been inside the whole time. That's part 2 of We Never Came Back. 8 of us were in that apartment. We did not open the door, but Marcus said it had already been inside. Part 3 drops soon, and I need you to understand something before you watch it. After that night, one of our group started acting different. Not scared different, wrong different. Subscribe and sleep with the lights on.